There is now some hope that the longest government shutdown on record could be about to end. That's after several Democrats in the Senate backed a Republican funding bill in a rare weekend session. But the compromise still needs to be approved by lawmakers in the House of Representatives. The historic shutdown has left workers without pay and disrupted essential services.
On this vote, the yeas are 60 and the nays are 40. 3/5 of the Senate duly chosen and sworn, having voted in the affirmative. The motion upon reconsideration is agreed to.
An end to the U.S. government shutdown is now in sight after the Senate voted to advance a bill to restore federal funding through January. The stalemate was broken by 8 Democrats who agreed to the deal, even though it omits their party's key demand, extending affordable health care subsidies. A vote on that will now be held in December. Democrats, who split with their party, defended their reasoning.
One is to make sure that the government is functioning so that our kids eat, so that our elderly citizens eat, so that our air traffic controllers can get some sleep and earn money.
The shutdown, which began October 1st, is the longest in U.S. history. It's also shaping up to be the most damaging economically. Federal workers aren't being paid, and food aid for millions of Americans has been suspended. Air traffic has also been disrupted, with thousands of flights canceled and delayed due to staff shortages.
I wish the shutdown wasn't happening, because we need, especially during the holidays, we need these people to work so that we can have a good holiday. And air traffic controls, yes, we need them.
I'm a little worried. Again, we have plans. We make plans based on the flights that we buy. So it worries me that maybe we could miss our flight and lose our jobs.
The shutdown could end this week, but several hurdles must be cleared. That includes opposition from Democratic senators who could delay its passage.
We're joined now by Scott Lucas, Professor of American Studies at the Clinton Institute at University College Dublin. Great to have you with us. So is this really the beginning of the end of the shutdown in the US, Scott?
Well, it could be. Let's walk through what now needs to happen. You had the first agreement on what's called a framework to end this shutdown. The deal is that the Democrats will get a vote on extending the tax credits for what's called Obamacare, the Affordable Care Act. But of course, they get no guarantee that extension will continue. They also get a promise from the Republicans that Donald Trump will not fire any of the 700,000 federal workers who have been furloughed without pay. On that basis, the funding for the government will continue through the end of January. But the Senate will need to confirm this. There needs to be a series of further votes. There is a chance, I think it's a small chance, that a single senator could raise an objection to this on procedural grounds. There's the dissident Republican Rand Paul of Kentucky, for example. But I think it will go through the Senate. The big question we're looking at is, will it pass in the House, which has been kept out of session throughout this shutdown by the House Speaker, Mike Johnson? I think almost all Republicans will vote for this package as it goes through. Will the Democrats, who are not happy, and I understand why they're not happy that health care is not being protected, will they agree to go ahead and let the government be funded through January on the hope that at a later point they can get a guarantee that those tax credits for health care will be approved?
Given everything that you've just said, the way you've described the situation, why did those 8 Democratic senators break ranks and vote for the Republican funding measure?
You know, sometimes I think in politics, politicians sometimes actually note the pain that's being inflicted. And the fact here is that the Trump administration had shown that they were willing to inflict a lot of pain on the American people with an indefinite shutdown. In the last few days, the Trump administration has defied court orders to continue food assistance, which almost 40 million Americans rely upon. And indeed, they had demanded that states repay that assistance. They had been willing to threaten, as I mentioned earlier, that many of those 700,000 federal workers who've been furloughed without pay they might never come back. They would effectively be fired. And we were starting to see the bite on transport with the Trump administration saying, okay, we're willing for 10% of flights to be canceled, 20% of flights to be canceled as you go into the second busiest day of the year for air travel in the United States, which is the day after Thanksgiving at the end of this month.
Will the fact that several Democrat senators voted with the Republicans, will that hurt the party, the Democratic Party going forward, do you think?
Well, I think that's an interesting question on two levels. I think the first here is, will the Democrats be blamed for this shutdown for the 40 days, especially now that they've sort of conceded ground to the Republicans? I don't think they will be. I think the play here is that when those healthcare premiums more than double for millions of Americans, it's the Trump administration carries the can for that. The broader question here is that you have many Democrats in the House who are not happy with this. They're not happy in what they see as a failure to really stand their ground. Will they be able to say, okay, we understand why this has occurred and work with colleagues who did accept the end of the shutdown? Will they be able to maintain party unity going forward? Only days after they had these electoral victories, from New York to New Jersey to Virginia. I think that's the key question going forward.
Scott Lucas from University College Dublin. We'll have to leave it there, but thank you so much for your analysis.
Thank you.
I'm joined now by Boris Vormann. He's a political analyst and director of the politics section at the Bard College here in Berlin. Good to see you, Boris. Do you think the longest shutdown in US history will now end this week?
I think it very much looks this way. There has been the 60-40 vote in the Senate. Yes, the House still needs to vote on it. There are a couple of hurdles that still need to be taken. But it looks like the momentum is on the side of passing and overcoming the government shutdown.
Do you read this, as most do, that Senate Democrats have simply blinked and given Republicans what they wanted?
Well, not entirely. I would say, of course, yes, the Democrats didn't get what they wanted, which was the healthcare subsidies, the tax credits on the Affordable Care Act that's to run out at the end of the year. But on the other hand, the GOP also didn't get everything it wanted. It wanted to basically shut down or heavily reduce the impact of the Government Accountability Office, which it didn't succeed in doing. The federal layoffs are being reversed. The money is going to be paid back to the workers. There will be a vote, as we heard, on the extension of the tax credits in December. So, yes, a compromise has been found, but a tricky one.
So to the burning question, did the Democrats actually achieve anything in enforcing the shutdown? Or is this a victory for President Trump, who stared down the shutdown?
I guess it depends on who among the Democrats you would ask. The more progressive wing and also people like Chuck Schumer said they wouldn't be willing to allow this to happen. Basically on the premise that these tax credits are very important for American citizens in order to be able to afford health care. And of course, this will have implications if these subsidies actually run out. On the other hand, those more centrist Democrats are trying to make an argument that they have taken steps that were simply needed as a reasonable political actor in order to accomplish something for the people who were suffering. So reducing suffering was their main argument. So I think it's very difficult to say who actually won from this kind of situation. Ultimately, everybody seems to have lost. The political process is in shambles. This is not the way that laws are supposed to be made through government shutdowns and using them as a political tool. Ultimately, even Trump, who was able to stare down some of the Democrats, will have to deal with an affordability crisis, which put him into office, but it's now on his hands to try and solve it.
Boris Vormann, political analyst and director of the politics section at Bard College in Berlin. We thank you so much.
Thank you.